Welcome, partners in crime. It is great to see you today. I am sorry I'm having some technical issues with my camera today, so we're just going to take a look at Yasin. Today, we are welcoming Yasin and his new book, The Missing Corpse. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gina. I'm so glad to be hosted by you.
It's great to see you today, sir.
Thank you.
And for everyone who hasn't read his books yet, Yasin is an international journalist, a TED Global Fellow, and author of several critically praised nonfiction books, including Why We Are Coming and Slave States, which both offer fresh perspectives on immigration and geopolitics. Politics. His journalism career includes contributions to outlets such as New York Times, Thomson Reuters, and many other global outlets. He holds an MFA in creative writing from Emerson College and he resides outside of Boston. Welcome. It is so great to see you today.
You're so welcome. Oh my God, you read my biography so well.
Thanks so much. It is
It
so
seems
great
like
to
I haven't had someone reading it to me in that way.
what it's wonderful. Frequently I have to cut them back, but it was absolutely perfect.
Thank you.
All the
Thank you
details
so
and
much.
concise.
Thank you, Gina. That's what I do. I have to be concise.
Yes. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about the missing corpse and give us a glimpse into the characters?
Okay, The Missing Corpse, the book I'm holding here, is my second book in a series called The Genos Project. In this series, from the first one was called The Mud of Hate, I'm trying to use storytelling as an X-ray to focus on the dark corridors of power that are stretching from Washington to, no, stretching from Africa to Washington, definitely Africa
Yes.
first, then Washington on top. And in this universe, I tried to create three main characters that are narrating this story in The Missing Corpse. The first character is the Geno, who is president's son. Okay, it's the late president because the president dies in the beginning. So the general is like a spoiled brat who thinks that the country belongs to him and is willing to smash anyone who tries to grab a piece. And the second character in this is Sean. Yeah, I figured Sean as a kind of James Bond,
Yes.
like he's a guy from is a CIA agent from Dorchester here, Massachusetts, who was sent to Africa to oversee what is happened to the president who is missing. And he is that guy you see in the movie like tripping off the detonator, James Bond guy. Then the last character is Joanne. Joanne, she's beautiful, she's magnetic, and in Shawnee's mind, she's a perfect cover for her spy work. The only problem is Joanne is not interested in Sean, and she's not even interested in any man for that matter, if you get my point. Yeah, so those are the
Yes.
three characters. Yeah.
They were each so very compelling. I was lucky enough to get to read The Missing Corpse, and I loved each of the characters. Even the general, spoiled brat though he was, he was quite a compelling character, and I really,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gina. That was,
oh,
yes, that was nice. I think the Geno if the Geno ever happens to be a real person, I don't think would love the part that he's playing in the novel, but I'm glad someone finds it compelling.
yes, yeah, I wouldn't like to see him in real life, but in fiction, it's okay.
Thank you.
So, what compelled you to write this gripping tale?
I wanted to imagine something like a peaceful transition of power in my country, in my homeland, which is Uganda. Something that is become like a more of a fantasy that it will ever happen. We have this Western or Washington-backed dictator who's been there for 40 years, actually,
Hmm.
which is long enough to outlive most appliances and several generations of hope, you know. Someone stay there for 40 years, you cannot have any more hope left with you.
Yes.
So his ally think that he can stay there forever, he can live forever. But of course, biology has a different opinion. So, instead of crying about this tragedy of dictatorship, because we've done so much crying, I decided to laugh about it. And I wrote a novel to invite other readers to laugh with me about this tragedy of dictatorship, that there is nothing else we can do about it, because sometimes humor is the only option you're left with.
Yes. Yeah. And as I was telling you before we started the program, it is a very good story. Like I really enjoyed it, but it was a very emotional story. Realizing some of the things that people live through in other countries. So it's a very difficult thing sometimes to deal with, you know.
I know it's always very difficult to tell these stories, especially our stories in any ways, because for so many generations, our stories have been told by Western writers, journalists, and they'll never capture it as much as we can do capture it. And because they will always have so much edit, something that for them think that it's so graphic, it's so much. They would always have, those. But once we start to tell our own stories, you would find all these emotions coming out. I have a very strong feeling that if The Missing Corpse was wrote by a Western person, it would be much different. It would be much, I would not say much polished, but it would be a lot of emotions that go through it would be edited out and put in
Yes,
the
yes, I
program.
completely agree. Your perspective is so much different because of what you've lived through.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Um, so the premise of the book is that whoever controls or has the president's corpse controls the nation. And that is very chilling and very original. It's not something that I've ever heard of before. So where did this idea come from?
Okay, Gina. If a man rules a country for 4 decades,
Yes.
dismantling all its institutions until that only man is the whole country, you know,
Yeah.
his death becomes the biggest political event of that country after independence.
Wow.
So, like, people will not wait for any more independence. We will not have any, what is it? Elections is the same thing. Everything is the same thing. Killing is the same thing.
Hmm.
So the only important political event that that country is waiting will be his death. So, like, I was thinking, like, what if this guy dies and the people don't know that he's dead? And I was like, I think even the cops will still rule us. If he
Yes.
dies and we don't know the power would try, of course, go to the cops. And whoever has the cops would be able to claim, look here, the president has said this. You have been appointed, you have been demoted, you are out of office, I'm in office. So it's it's that power is there is no other institutions except that person. So that's what was going through my mind when I was imagining that what if this person ever dies? How long will it take for us to know that this guy even died? And how long will the cops be the president?
Oh, and how, I mean, what if nobody chooses to tell you? How long would you live without him being around?
Of course, what if no one chooses to tell us? How long would we live with our imagination that maybe he's dead, maybe he's on life support, maybe he's
Wow. And I
maybe
mean,
he
it
will
was,
reappear one day. Maybe he will come up. He would keep on coming into the country's nightmares. That, oh, what if he wakes up?
oh gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a harrowing novel, and to live through it with the people and the characters that you had in there, it was very frightening, thinking of what would come next.
I know. It's something that we need to start thinking about, even talking about. Like, when everything has been dismantled, people get to like, we don't even talk about what is going to happen when these dictators fall. And when it happens, it always happens. We are not unexpectedly. We don't know. It takes them by surprise. The government and the people who were working for him, there's cronies, they're all surprised because no one expects it to happen. And the population is also can't believe it. So it is something that is we need to start talking about that because it's going to happen one day. That what is going to happen if this guy doesn't wake up one day?
Yes, it's so scary. And as you did that, though, you combined a political drama with a crime thriller. So how did you integrate those so well and keep like there was a constant mix of both without one overtaking the other. So how did you balance that?
Okay, Gina, I picked up this idea actually. A friend once told me that if you want the Americans to read your book, you have to write it as a crime thriller because Americans devour crime like breakfast cereals.
I won't disagree.
So like crime thrillers, true crime podcasts, crime documentaries, crime series, everything on television is crime. And they are like, I was like, what? So if I was gonna tell this story for this journal and this government, I had to tell it in the crime scenario. And what happens that the gang that rules us so much fits into the crime aspect. So it easily merged for me. Like, like, let me do this analogy. If I was to write this crime thriller for only the African audience,
Yes.
everyone would be like, why do you have to remind us? We see crime every day. We know how it's going to end. We know how it's going to happen. It's not the
Mhm.
same with the Americans. The Americans are like, oh, did he escape? How did it happen? Because maybe they are starting to have more crime, but they haven't had so much crime. So for them, crime lives into their fantasy. For the people in Africa, crime is part of their life. It's from the top. From the president is a crime. The president is a criminal. Everyone is a criminal. The opposition is all of them. They are criminals. So for them, crime is an aspect. It's part of life. And
Yes.
if you are writing it, it's like you are reporting news. Just to be more serious, like, I was thinking that what, how everything manifests in these countries, whether it's the way the state operates, whether it's operates with corruption, murder, torture, bribery, it's all these are aspects, all these are crimes. So
Hmm.
if these are the tools the government uses to keep control, then the government itself is like a criminal gang. So when I decided to use a crime thriller as a vehicle for this narrative, it was not so much far-fetched. I don't know if
Yes.
I'm so convincing, but I think it was not so far-fetched.
And that maybe is what makes it the most scary.
Okay.
Knowing that these things really do happen and maybe they didn't happen in sequence, but they do happen.
Maybe they would happen off the cameras,
Yes.
when they would put on the cameras, they just put on the cameras for these puppets to smile on the cameras, and when they start breaking bones, then they shut off the cameras. Say, oh, this is too graphic, it's too emotional, we cannot show this, we need to put warning. But for the people whose bones are being broken, they don't get any warning. So
Yes.
yeah, they
Yes.
don't get any trigger warning that we're gonna break your skull. That's it. Yeah.
Ugh. Um, so as you were pulling this together and you have Sean and Joanne and the general, which of their journeys surprised you the most as you wrote the book, or did you have that plotted before you started?
Actually, I okay, let me just say this. Joanne
Hmm.
is one of the characters that has surprised me most, hands down on that. She starts off as a party girl,
Hmm.
she becomes a sex worker, then somehow she's a lover, then she's a mother, then she's a lesbian, then she's a hero, then she's a liberator. She collected more identities along the way, more than what, more than what the Geno and the CIA Sean Wells have ever collected, yes. But when I was imagining the novel at first, I had Sheila to be the driver she comes into the first novel. She doesn't live. The problem is that she died in the first novel.
Oh.
And I couldn't resurrect her like it happens in movies. Dexter comes
She was just hiding.
So I decided to find a very dangerous replacement, and I thought of Joanne.
Hmm.
And the good thing is that Joanne lives through this novel throughout, so maybe she would come back in the other one. Yeah, but Jeno and Sean were in the other novel also, but Sheila died, and so I needed a female character to shine through. So that's when I invented Joanne.
Oh yeah, and she was something.
Oh yeah, Sheila was also something. They have some similar features, definitely. They're both very beautiful. They're both very magnetic. I always, when I'm creating female characters, I try to make them very magnetic, very irresistible, and yeah, I think they two share this, Sheila and Joanne. Yeah.
Yes. And okay, so I wasn't able to read the first book in the series. So can you tell us a little bit about how this one ties into that?
Okay. A Murder of Hate was set in Boston mostly. This
Yes.
girl comes from Africa to study in Boston. She gets murdered in Boston,
Hmm.
and the detectives have more suspects. One of the suspects is the boyfriend. Sean was then the boyfriend, was not yet the CIA. But
Ah,
this
okay.
girl holds secrets from home. She was
Hmm.
from the ruling family and she was against the general becoming the next president. And
Hmm.
in that country, if you were against the general becoming the next president, as brutal as you read the general, you die, whether you are family or not. So this girl runs to Boston, goes into school, but she has these convictions and she's driving the family behind narrative that we cannot sink this road to let this guy to be the next president. It doesn't reflect so well on the country. It doesn't reflect well on even the family. And definitely when she dies in Boston, the detectives start to, to collect evidence and they realize that the general could have a hand. But also the CIA wanted her dead because definitely the CIA has this strong partnership with the general and his father in the region because they are the main pitchman mafias in the region. They are the ones who authorize the troops, they are the ones who saved the Americans' troops being on the ground in this Great Lakes region, which is a very rich region. So the general and the president, they have the troops. Instead of Americans having troops in Somalia, the general and president send their troops in Somalia.
Hmm.
It's because Somalia is very graphic when the Americans die and they put them on the road. It is so emotional and trigger warning for the population in the United States. In Africa, it doesn't even matter how they killed them, they don't care. So it's this guy in Congo, they need to have a swift, it's a rich in resources, coltan, cobalt, gold, everything, all of them that keep the world economy moving. So then in order to hold the local populations not to, not to stop this exploration and the extraction of these resources, then still the same the general and his father sent troops in Congo. The general and his
Mhm.
father sent troops in Sudan. The general and his father sent troops in Rwanda to capture the government. So they have troops everywhere in so many countries. Besides, it's actually at a certain point, Uganda was the only country with so many troops in other countries, in other people's countries, besides the United States. And when
Wow.
sometimes when I engaged in political debates with the Ugandans, I would ask them that, do you think that the Ugandan troops are in Somalia to safeguard Ugandan interests, to safeguard interests of Ugandan people? And everyone would be like, no. Do you think they are in Congo to safeguard the interests of Ugandan people? No. Do you think they are in Chad to do this? No. In all of this, definitely, they are doing it for Washington. And it's the only reason why Washington has kept this dictator in power for 40 years. And it's the only scary thing that if the general is willing to play ball like his father is to bring to do what his father has been doing for Washington in the region, because the region is becoming now even more versatile with the resources scarcity that is going on and whatever. So if anyone can guarantee the Washington that resources will keep flowing in this region, not only in Uganda, in Congo, in Sudan, in Somalia, if anyone guarantees that, then they will definitely support that one. They don't, regardless of the human rights, whatever they do, regardless of how many skulls they break, regardless of how many bodies they mutilate, regardless of how many people they throw into the Nile to be fed to the crocodiles, so long as they can guarantee that resources will keep on flowing from this region, they will support them.
Wow. That's amazing and scary.
Yeah.
Um, so I I do want to commend you because I will say that for anyone who is listening, you can read book two without having read book one at all. And
Exactly.
yeah, it's amazing that in a trilogy like this that you were able to do that, and it just kind of it pulls Sean into a different part of his life, um, and what is next.
Yes, exactly. What I intended was to write each one as a standalone so
Hmm.
that it can always be read independently. And yes, and I think I achieved it when I published The Missing Corpse, and everyone was like, I didn't read the first one. Like when you read through the comments on Amazon and Goodreads, people who are giving me reviews, they say, we didn't read the first one, but we were fine with the second.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, you did a wonderful job with that. Um, now, was there a particular scene in this book, The Missing Corpse, that was especially challenging or fun for you to write? Maybe some research that you got to do?
Oh, yes. There were several scenes that was particularly interesting for me to write. But I'll tell you, the most challenging ones
Hmm.
are mostly two, which I will discuss. The first one was this, that brothel scene, if you read it. So let me be clear on this. The brothel that I talk about in this book actually exists
Yes.
in Uganda. It's not just fiction. So what I did, I
Oh,
just tried to change the names because I don't want the management to sue me. I just enjoy writing books. I don't want to start writing court affidavits. Yeah, but this place just captured my attention when it started showing up on social media on Ugandan, stories. And I was like, can this be true? So I have a friend, a journalist friend, and we were
mhm.
having a conversation who is based in Uganda. I'm not in Uganda and I can't go to Uganda. So I asked this guy, this thing, do you think it's real? He said, I'm not sure, but the way they are telling it, I think it's real. I said, we have a deal. I'm working on this second book, and I think if I can have some things to this, will be very important to highlight my story in this novel. So I agree with this guy. He goes there with a journalist eye, investigative eye, to see what is going on. And then
Mhm.
comes back and he writes for me everything. And yeah, of course, I would pay him. I did pay him. I'm not going to pay him royalties for the book. That's because that's the only contribution he did, but I paid him. So he goes in there, and when he comes back, he went there on a Tuesday, so I still feature it as a Tuesday, It
Hmm.
was one of the busiest days. And when he comes back, he tells me, you know what, Yasin, you cannot write what I saw there. He says, I can't even write. I don't even know. I can't put two on paper or in words what I saw. It is mad. It's crazy. And I'm like, try try, just write whatever you can do, and then I would have my imagination filling up the gaps. But try, just give me anything, give me whatever you can put on paper. I would just fill it in up with my imaginations where there are gaps, but try. And he did. And I did also fill in the gaps. When I gave him my first draft to read about this chapter for the brothel, I was like, wow, you did a good work with your imagination, but still I will be very clear with Yasin. You cannot describe what is going on there. This is insane. Even with
Wow.
all this work you've done, what
Yeah.
goes on there is so insane, is so dehumanizing, it's serious, it's on another level. And like this is the only scene actually when I did write, I did not even have, like for so many people who have read it, they would get back to me and they say, "Oh my God, what if your parents read it?" Oh, all my parents are, that saying that you become a better writer when all your parents die. Because you don't have to be embarrassed with what you wrote. Someone calling you to say, Yasin, like my dad would make that noise every time when I do something, like he would just call your name. But my mom would call you with the two names. If we called you all your names, then you are in trouble. So
Yes.
I don't have any of them to call my name in that summoning way. But still, when I wrote it, I didn't have like I didn't imagine having like, of course, my kids, any of them reading this. I would be
Hmm.
a very happy parent if none of my kids ever picks up this missing corpse to read, especially that's
Yes.
especially. So that was one. So the second one was a torture scene. The torture scenes.
Yes.
The thing is that it was very challenging to me. It was very emotional to me because they were real.
Hmm.
They were real. I got mostly this idea from like a friend sent me this YouTube, you know, pictures where these
Yes.
political prisoners are being tortured in Uganda, and some of these prisoners are telling their story. And when I heard it, like my first instinct was that I think we should write about the tortures, like in a non-fiction book. We should collect all their stories
Hmm.
and put them in a book as evidence
Wow.
to the atrocities this president is doing at the cost of him staying to power on us.
Hmm.
What we have had to pay for this guy to stay in power so that he facilitate the resource extraction, the exploitation and plan of this region by the Western world. So I reached out because most of these tortured people were from the leading opposition. So I reached out to their leaders, and they were playing me in circles. I would write a draft, write for us a pitch, a proposal, this, write this, write
Hmm.
this. And until like by then, I hadn't even woken up to realize that even this opposition were just a drama, staged drama. They were just props with the government. So when suddenly a government agent approached me to tell me that, why are you trying to write all these books? And I was like, how did you know that I'm trying to do it? And so I knew that the opposition had already sold me. So I was like, I cannot write this book in the nonfiction, and it was very challenging for me that I had to bury these stories in a kind of fiction, and
Hmm.
I couldn't have real access to more stories because like what I needed from the opposition was putting me into contact with these people, the victims, because they have their members, to tell me the stories in confidence and in detail, and I be able to ask questions and I be able to get back to them and all this, that kind of confidence. They would be more willing when it's their party that is, then yeah, then when that couldn't happen because even the opposition was scared of these stories being, being investigated in depth and into something that is gonna be permanent breakable. So I resorted to fiction, and that's how I ended up, pulling them together to put them in this novel. Yeah, that was
Mhm.
another very challenging scene, actually.
And those were both very challenging scenes to read as a reader, because knowing that a lot of your work was based on fact, it was hard, like putting myself into those positions and thinking through the fact that that stuff really is happening. Both of those scenes, really.
Yes, exactly. But there is a lot of scenes that are actually pulled through real life. And yeah,
Hmm.
like I said somewhere in the book, that it's only in the fiction that you can tell the truth. Yes,
Yes, I remember reading that.
yes, because when you say it's a lot of non-fiction, a lot of them, they're gonna come to tell you, oh, who told you this? What are your sources? Where do we, let's, but if it's in fiction, okay. If you think it's not right, if you think it's not true, of course it's fiction. It's the essence of the novel is that it's
Hmm.
fiction, it's imagination, it's by imagination. So it remains that only fiction is the only vehicle now to tell the truth, which is so unfortunate also. Yeah.
It is. Now, before we get off here today, is there anything that you hope that each of your readers will think about after turning that last page in your book?
What they would think about, I think, is that yes, despite the darkness, it's not that all hope is lost, There is, yeah, the book is dark, I agree, but I have to say that by the time someone turns it towards, how it turns out, that I just wanted to tell people that despite all this darkness, there still can be hope. Salvation may come from places you don't know. From, it always comes from people like Joanne, the types that are always dismissed, underestimated, ordinary people. These are the people who rise up and carry the nations on their backs, like when the so-called government and the fake opposition leaders are still robbing the people blind. These are the own people who carry the nations on their backs.
Yes. And can I ask you a question before we get off here?
Yes, please.
Have you started on book three yet?
Oh yeah, you saw at the back page, actually,
Yes.
I've already given you a teaser. Even the cover
Oh,
page for book three is already there. The book three
ooh.
is, yeah, book three is called The President's Funeral.
Uh-huh.
So what I look at in book three is that let's just say things escalate. So we are heading into a third world war where the resources in the Great Lakes region become very, very much important to the superpowers. And everyone is rushing in to take a part,
Hmm.
another, scramble and partition of Africa. So what is different with the book three is also that the story is driven by a supernatural force, The ghost of the late President Joel Katila Mowaji is the one that is narrating the book.
Okay.
So this is the man who was drunk on power in life, and somehow he's even much drunker in death. His ghost is camped at Washington on Capitol Hill, just trying to lobby his bankers not to let the country proceed with his burial.
Hmm.
Why? Because he wants to be reinstalled as the president. And yes, even if, I'm looking at like, does Washington, what does Washington has to lose if Uganda has a dead president in power? Someone who sits, who rules from the coffin and not,
Oh, yeah.
so long as, like, so, and the book is just telling that, like, Washington doesn't care whether he's alive, dead, or embalmed in bubble wrap, as so long as the resource pipeline stays open, that is what matters. So if Uganda makes history and be the first country to have a dead president who is also the sitting president, so let that be. So the book is called The President is Funeral, like I showed you, and trust me, the funeral refuses to end.
Oh, I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today, Yasin.
Oh, this was so important. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate that I had to explore all the themes with you, and looking forward for more.
Well, yeah, so we're looking forward to the reviews, and the
Yes,
reviewers are going to start reading the book soon.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Gina. This was important. This was so fun. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, and we will see you again soon.
All right, have a good one.